Hi everybody! Welcome back to Children's Liturgy of the Word. Again, I'm Mrs. O'Leary or Miss Jen, and this is the third Sunday of Easter for St. Elizabeth Ann SetonParish in Crofton, and we're so excited that you're back. So we're going to start off this week with a little bit of a guessing game. Are you ready for this? Okay, I'm going to describe a sport for you. I have some sports equipment over here. I'm going to describe a sport for you, and you're going to try to guess what it is. Ready? Okay, so the first sport I'm going to describe, you use this piece of equipment. It's a long stick, and you hit a ball, and you walk around a lot. There's not a lot of action all the time. And the ball is kind of small. And this is a team sport. So sometimes you're hitting the ball and sometimes you're not hitting the ball. Can you guess what it is? You might have had a couple guesses. What if I show you this? Does that help you out? What sport am I talking about? That's right, baseball! Okay, but you might have thought I was talking about a different sport. Let me try again. I'm going to do a different sport this time. This again is a piece of equipment that's a long stick and you hit a ball with it and you don't do a lot of moving around. You actually ride around in something sometimes, and it's not a team sport really. You kind of play on your own, and you have to hit the ball a long way and the ball's small and you have to be quiet during this game. The spectators, the people who watch it, have to be really quiet. You want me to show you what the equipment is? Have you guessed yet? I'm not good at giving these clues, am I? Anyway, this is this piece of equipment. Do you know what the sport is? That's right, golf. This is for golf. But it was probably hard, like if you had both of those next to each other. All right, we're going to try it again. I have two more sports. And these involve balls. I have the balls as the equipment. So the first one I'm going to tell you about, you kick this ball and you're on a team and there's a lot of running around and you want to get the ball to go through a goal, and you can only really use your feet to touch this ball. Can you guess? There's a lot of running around on the field, and you want to get your ball all the way down to one end and score a goal, and it's a very popular sport worldwide. Did you guess soccer? Woo! Soccer! Okay, one more. You ready? So I have another ball, and this ball you use in a sport where you use your foot with it, and you play on a big field and you try to get it through the goal. Only the shape is a little different. Yeah, it's not really round. I mean, it's round on some parts of it, but it's not a circle, a sphere, I guess. And you're trying to get it down the field and score a goal. Did you guess football? Woo-hoo! Football. Great. So was it easier to guess the sport when I used my words, or was it easier when you could see the equipment? It was probably easier when you could see the equipment, right? When you were right there face to face with it. I guess you're not really face to face, you're on a video, but when you could see it instead of just me describing it. So for us, it's usually easier for us to understand things when we can really experience them and see them. If you were going to play one of those sports, it would be way easier for you to learn the sport, to go out and play it, than it would be to just talk about how to play it, wouldn't it? So this is true for a lot of things. We want to experience things and do them in order to learn them well. So in this week's gospel, Jesus has risen from the dead, And he goes on this walk with these disciples, but they don't recognize Jesus. They're walking with him and talking with him, and they don't realize that this is their friend Jesus. And it's really easy for us to listen to this story and think, how do you not realize that that is Jesus you're walking with? But when you're on the outside of a story listening to it or watching it, it's a lot easier to go, how did you not know? So I'm going to invite you to open up your mind as you listen to this gospel story today and try and think about a time where maybe you didn't understand something. So again today, I'm going to read the gospel, and I'm going to be reading it from my computer where I'm filming, so it'll kind of look like I'm looking at you, but I'm actually reading the words. And I want you to know it's kind of a long gospel. So while we usually stand up, it's okay if you stay sitting. But remember that we start a gospel by crossing our forehead and our mouth and our heart, and that is so that we remember to keep the words in our mind and on our lips and in our heart. So we say a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. 2 of Jesus' disciples were going to the village of Emmaus, which was about 7 miles from Jerusalem. As they were talking and thinking about what had happened, Jesus came near and started walking along beside them, but they did not know who he was. Jesus asked them, "What were you talking about as you walked along?" The 2 of them stood there looking sad and gloomy, and then one named Cleopas asked Jesus, "Are you the only person from Jerusalem who didn't know what was happening there these last few days?" "What do you mean?" Jesus asked. They answered, "Those things that happened to Jesus from Nazareth. By what he did and said, he showed that he was a powerful prophet who pleased God and all the people. Then the chief priests and our leaders had him arrested and sentenced to die on a cross. We had hoped that he would be the one to set Israel free. But it has already been 3 days since all this happened. Some women in our group surprised us. They had gone to the tomb early in the morning, but they did not find the body of Jesus. They came back saying that they had seen a vision of angels who told them that he is alive. Some men from our group went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they didn't see Jesus either." Then Jesus asked the 2 disciples, "Why can't you understand? How can you be so slow to believe all that the prophets said? Didn't you know that the Messiah would have to suffer before he was given his glory?" Jesus then explained everything written about himself in the scriptures, beginning with the law of Moses and the books of the prophets. When the 2 of them came near the village where they were going, Jesus seemed to be going farther, and they begged him, "Stay with us. It's already late and the sun is going down." So Jesus went into the house to stay with them. After Jesus sat down to eat, he took some bread. He blessed it and broke it, and then he gave it to them. And at once they knew who he was. But he disappeared. They said to each other, "When he talked with us along the road and explained the scriptures to us, didn't it warm our hearts?" So they got right up and returned to Jerusalem. The 2 disciples found the 11 apostles, and the others gathered together, and they learned from the group that the Lord was really alive and had appeared to Peter. Then the disciples from Emmaus told what had happened on the road and how they knew he was the Lord when he broke the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. Okay, so these disciples are walking along and they're minding their own business when Jesus comes up and starts walking with them. And he starts talking with them and they don't realize he's Jesus. And they're sad. I mean, they miss him. They still don't realize he's Jesus. But what happens that they do realize? At what point in the story, what happens that they go, "Oh, it's him. It's Jesus! It's Jesus! When in the story, it's when he sits down with them at the meal and he breaks the bread. And he says, this is my body, right? When did that happen before? They remember because that's what happened at the Last Supper. That's when Jesus looked at them and broke the bread with them and sat down to the meal with them. And so it's happening again, and that's how they remember this is our friend Jesus. The other thing is, at that point, they have spent more time with him. So they've walked along this road and they've talked with him for, I don't know how long, a few minutes, a few hours. And he's going to go on, but they say, no, please come with us. We're having such a good time with you. So he comes back to their home and he has a meal with them. The more time they spend with him, the more they recognize that he's Jesus. And the same is true for us. The more time we spend with Jesus, the more we will recognize him and see him as our friend. So I want you to think about some ways that you can spend time with Jesus. Just think for a couple minutes. One way that you can spend time with Jesus is by going to Mass or something called Eucharistic adoration. And right now, we can't do that. Right now, to keep everybody safe, we're staying at home. But watching Mass and watching Father Paul in the middle of the day, every day at noon, he gets on and he checks in with everybody. And watching Mass together with all our friends online, these are the ways that we can learn more about Jesus and get to know him better and spend time with him. There are other ways too that we can get to know Jesus better. We have this great book called the Bible, and it has lots of stories about him, and we can learn more about him through those stories. You also probably have some adults in your life who can help you get to know Jesus more. Your parents, for sure. Priests like Father Paul, and you might know some other priests. You have a catechist, either somebody at school who teaches you more about our faith, or when you go to religious ed, you have somebody who teaches you more about our faith. You also have godparents, and their job as your godparents is to make sure that you understand whatever you can about Jesus. So you have a lot of people in your life who would be happy to answer any questions that you have and happy to teach you more about this great guy, Jesus. So I'm going to encourage you, just like these disciples walked along this road and got to know Jesus better, I'm going to encourage you this week to walk a road, figuratively, and get to know Jesus better. Think about something that you can do this week to spend time with Jesus, either in prayer or reading a Bible story or asking your parents some questions. These are great things you can do. The other thing I want you to remember is that some people might not know Jesus. They might not know him as well as you do. They might not know who Jesus is at all. And your responsibility is to walk along that road with them and to help them get to know Jesus. But your actions are more important than your words. So remember that game we played a few minutes ago? It's way more important for you to show them who Jesus is than for you to tell them who Jesus is. So this week I'm going to also ask you to think of ways that you can show your faith. And there are probably things you've already been doing. You can make cards or posters for anyone who might be lonely during this time. You can do what your mom or dad says the first time. And maybe most importantly, you can pray for anyone right now in the whole entire world. But especially I like to think about the people right now who are lonely or scared or sick. So I'm going to encourage you this week to take some action, to try and live out your faith so that others can know who Jesus is because of you. All right, before we go, we're going to do our profession of faith. Here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, I do. Can you say that? I do. So I'm going to read from here, and then you're going to answer the question, I do. Can I tell you a little secret? We did this at your baptism. Okay. So, here we go. Respond to each question with the words, I do. Do you believe in God the Father Almighty, who set Jesus free from death and raised him to life? Great. Do you believe in Jesus Christ, the Lord of all, whom death could not hold in its power? Do you believe in the Holy Spirit, whom Jesus sent to be our companion on the journey of faith? Fantastic. Good. So we're going to use the power of the Holy Spirit this week, and we're going to grow closer to Jesus, and we are going to help others grow closer to Jesus. All right? I hope you have a great week, and thanks again for tuning into Children's Liturgy of the Word. I'll see you next time.